The power dynamics in running a guild are weird, and I think that it causes a lot of the friction in the game when it comes to people actually enjoying the process of making a guild, and also when it comes to individuals finding guilds that they believe are well ran. In the real world, for example, since we use money to pay people who do things that we ask of them, your boss in some way has a lot of earned power over you. The earned part is that at some point in time the organization got a hold of money by doing things for other people, and now they're able to give you money, which is an IOU that you can cash in for any other part of your life. And so there's this top-down power structure where it makes sense for the employee to listen generally to the employer or the superior, whatever you want to say, and it also makes sense for the superior to have that power because it's in some way earned. Now, in World of Warcraft, it's a little weird because obviously, if putting together guilds and raid groups was trivial, then simply inviting people and choosing a tabard and a guild name wouldn't really be earned power. And when a guild is starting out, there usually isn't any real value in the organization. There's no enterprise value there. So the power is also unearned. Anybody who does listen to a GM before the raid team is successful or before a social-based community has been formed is making a massive gamble with their time that it will work out. And people are aware of this, rather they're thinking it outright or not, that they're in a precarious situation until things have been proven out. And I think that this makes it so that way raiders behave in a way that appears abnormal to new guild leaders. And also guild leaders are incented to do things that are actually wrong, things that are not the right way, you could say, to build a guild. Here's an example for anybody that's ever ran a group before. When you're recruiting, avoiding recruiting big cliques is the right way. Is 100% the right way. Every time you integrate a group that is large enough that they have power over you, it's the wrong way. It's the easy way. It's the fast. It feels evolutionarily advantageous because, oh man, I just got like 4 guys in one swoop. Yeah, you did. But there's no free lunch here. And now you're beholden to them kind of forever. Or if you're not going to be beholden to them forever, you're probably going to have to betray their trust in some way to make them not an essential part of your raid team or your raid guild. Like slowly replace them behind their backs, which is also not a great idea because when you do anything like this, you signal to literally everybody that reports to you or works with you that you're a sneaky little motherfucker and who knows what you're going to do at literally any point in time. I think another example of the right way to do stuff in running a guild is to act in a manner where people can kind of predict how you're going to respond to things. For example, in my guild, not that anybody really ever does this, but this is a thing that's happened in the past. In the distant past, when I ran guilds and I didn't have a channel, and it was very hard to get people to buy into the mission, someone would talk about maybe doing something that's bad for the raid team in Discord, and I wouldn't be around, and other people would be like, my name was Cutie Night back then, and they'd be like, Cutie's going to freak the fuck out on you. That is a good thing. Good thing. People can predict how you're going to act. I think that's an example of something that's the right way. But part of that is that you have to act kind of consistently. And I'm not saying that you have to treat everybody the same, but there needs to be some consistency to the way you make decisions. Otherwise, if you're not there, you're not like, there's no control you have over the environment. You know, you need to have some amount of control over like literally everything in your guild, and not in some like evil shadow cabal mastermind manipulating everybody sort of way, but it's the only way you can actually create a culture partially on purpose, and you can't make it totally on purpose. And it's very, very difficult if you're some guy and you have a job and you love raid leading and you've always thought you wanted to make a guild and you think you could do it right. It's so hard, especially starting from zero, to actually get something rolling. But you need to be careful that you're doing stuff the right way. There's so many shortcuts. These are things that'll happen if you take shortcuts. These are things that friends I'm talking to right now who run other guilds have told me, and I over the years I've heard this from tons of people. You'll try to recruit people really quickly, and you'll take the wrong classes. You'll mess up your raid comp because you want to fill the raid really quick. And then you'll have this weird situation of are we going to keep the raid comp bad forever? If you're going to keep the raid comp bad, then you have no standing trying to enforce certain requirements on people. How could you dare tell the warriors they need to get rend buff if you're willing to take 4 hunters? Because the reality is, if you just had 3 more warriors, the raid would get more of a boost than you getting all these guys to get rend buff. So how dare you, Mr. Raid Leader guy, how dare you bring an unoptimal comp and then ask me, the committed DPS, to go spend an hour running around in Barrens, right? But this is a thing that you'll be tempted to do as a raid leader. Another one is you will have people who are unbelievably agreeable. They will never hassle you on anything. This is a thing that I run into in my guild, which I'm very careful not to take advantage of this, but you'll run into the most agreeable, kind people. They really empathize with others, and maybe they were a leadership person before, and they want to make your life easy. And you'll be tempted to give these guys no loot. You'll be tempted to ask these guys to do all of the least fun mechanics in raid. You'll be tempted to ask them to ignore rude comments from new members or people that you know in your guild are kind of toxic, but you think are of utility in some way. This is all examples of the wrong way. The right way is hard as fuck, and it doesn't just work. It's so difficult to try to get a team of 40 people who are the right mix of agreeable, so that way people can get along, and maybe disagreeable because you don't know everything and you can't do everything on your own, and you need some people that are going to have some initiative and maybe not be scared of, for example, fucking up in raid. That's a disagreeable people can really help you out with that. And if you aren't careful about this, what you'll end up doing is slowly, or actually say really quickly, you'll be focused on a goal like filling your 40-man raid group, and you'll get a bad comp. You'll get clicks, you'll have toxic high performers that you will, in the moment, you'll think, this guy is my number 1 warrior DPS. He does double the DPS of the lowest warrior DPS. And so they're as valuable as 2 people. But let's say I give them all the loot. That will totally make them stay around forever, right? If I give them all the loot. And so even if they run off 3 or 4 people, maybe they make sense. I can have this guy in the raid group. He can run 3 to 4 people off over the next year. He'll do as much damage as at least 2 of them, but all the loot stays in the guild. My life's simpler. Yeah, this doesn't fucking work. People have tried this. This is a thing people try. You have these guys, these fucking high DPS drama queens in your guild that fucking ask for literally everything, and you think you can make them happy, but you actually can't. No one can make them happy. They're just unhappy, miserable motherfuckers, all right? And there's low DPS players like this too. It's just that, so don't get me wrong. Some people are going to think like, I can't believe these sweaty fucking loser tryhards. They're so demanding. Like, no. The low DPS gray parsers, they're also like this. I've ran into rogues that do as much DPS as fucking like the debuff spec for mages. And they'll ask why they don't get every single piece of loot, or you'll fucking run into meme spec players. Like, if you ever ran into like a Ret Paladin, Boomkin, maybe a Feral Druid or a Shadow Priest, and they're fucking asking you about loot. If you ever were goofy enough to include one of those specs in your raid group, yeah, they'll bitch about stuff too, and it's like, pipe down, motherfucker. I can't even see you on the meters. You're like number 37. How do fucking Holy Priest beat you? Easy. It's so easy to make the wrong moves and then feel really torn up about it. Like, this will be a thing that happens if you ever want to make a guild one day, and you should. If you ever been super interested in doing it, you should fucking try it. But you just got to understand that it's, no matter how good you are at it, it's gonna suck. It's gonna unless you got a fucking YouTube channel, and so you can just like snap your fingers and find some people that like think the same as you. Unless you have a fucking YouTube channel or like a big Twitch stream, it's just gonna suck for like 300 hours of recruiting and getting into these tiny conversations with people because they really don't know you when they join the guild, and they're not going to want to get to know you. So you can't even think something like, oh, I'm going to just try to make 40 friends. That's actually fucking impossible. If you're starting from zero trying to recruit in trade chat, it's impossible. You're going to have people in your group that really don't know you, that plan on never getting to know you, that are just there to get loot and are not going to tell you that, and you are just going to have to deal with them, and you're going to assign pieces to people, and they're going to lie to you and leave, and you're going to feel betrayed, and you're going to have people make up excuses about why they weren't at raid. They no-showed. And you're going to be aware that a lot of the things you get told are fucking bullshit, and it's going to tear you up. And you're not going to be sure. You're going to be thinking stuff like, okay, like I had 5 people call out like 30 minutes before raid. Really, is this actually all of them had something happen? Some of these people are fucking full of it. People say stories that make no sense. Like, this is a thing I've had happen before. I have a really, really good memory. And somebody would like talk about how their fucking grandma died like years ago, and then they fucking miss a raid and tell me that like their grandma died or something. And I'm like, you know, like, and this is just shit that'll happen. If you're like really aware and you're running a guild, you'll just notice these things. People tell you little stories about their lives, and then eventually they'll like call out on a raid, and you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is fucking bullshit. And you're gonna be sitting there because you're probably not gonna have a team that's super committed and well put together, and you're gonna be thinking, okay, like, do I call this person out on this? Like, they're obviously fucking lying to me right now, but like then maybe they don't show up next week if I call them out. Like, is it gonna actually change their behavior? And you're gonna just have like all these weird conflicting priorities. Or you're gonna have people in raid that are gonna be super disruptive, but like they're good, like they're a really good player, but they just can't shut their fucking mouth, and they're gonna like talk over the raid leader, and then people are gonna be confused about what's going on, you know. And what do you do about it? Like, especially in the moment, you know, you don't want to like damage the relationship, but you're also wondering if like this is bad for the raid group long term. Like, what is the right move? And there's no crystal ball, and especially when you are the GM or the raid leader, you don't have, when it comes to asking people about what to do in raid, you don't have peers in the normal sense usually, because anyone who's never been responsible for maintaining a roster. So for example, if you, and this, I've been in this situation before, I've been a raid leader in a guild before where I had no recruitment responsibilities. Like, I just joined a really bad guild and I hung out and I played a lot, and they like were okay with me becoming the raid leader. Basically, I asked. They weren't just like, would you like to be the raid leader? Because it doesn't happen like that. You have to ask for it, and it has to make sense for them, and the current raid leader has to be fucking trash at it, like super bad and disliked, and probably quitting. Also, like quitting the game simultaneously. Like, that's what happened when I became the raid leader in that situation. And then I had no responsibilities other than raid leading. Okay, and if that's your situation, then for example, like, let's say you have a friend like that. Like, let's say I was your friend and that's the only way I'd ever raid led for. I didn't have any responsibilities outside raid, and you like ask me something like, hey, I have this guy who is really good, but he like just says stupid shit during raid. Like, this would be a big one. These 3 guys are really good and they like the N-word way too much. What do I do, dude? And, you know, maybe, I mean, really the right answer is you just shouldn't allow that stuff in your guild ever. Because it spreads like wildfire. But assuming it was something more minor than that, let's say it was more like, I have these 3 guys and they like to talk over the me when I'm raid leading, me being you, and they all do it together, but they're great players. The roster's kind of slim. And then me not being responsible for recruitment, I just say like, dude, just tell them that they're out of the raid group if they don't fucking listen. All right? And that totally misses like all the context. Like, maybe that's not the right answer. Maybe if you do that, the raids are already underfilling and you have like 30 people instead of 33, and you should just fucking eat shit and have these idiots in your raid and have them annoy you a bit and get a few more people, and then you can think more clearly about the long term and what you want your team to be like, and then you can confront them. You know, that might be the actual answer, but the people who aren't responsible for recruiting, they'll tell you stuff like, just kick them, just make them listen, just tell them that they have to do things this way. That's what'll happen. Or you'll have people tell you stuff like, well, I think the biggest problem with loot councils is that they can be corrupt. If you make it guaranteed to not to be corrupt by rolling all the loot, then surely people will be happy with how loot's distributed. If you abdicate all power in regards to getting loot, surely people will be happy. And that won't work either. But you'll have people who will be your friends. Most of your friends will not have ever had this kind of people management responsibility in or out of the game. And they'll give you advice that's crazy. It's crazy. It won't work at all, but it'll sound so good. So good. Another one that people say is like, oh, yeah, like, no, you run a loot council, the way you make people happy, oh, you just look at the meters and you just assign loot from the top of the DPS to the bottom. And the people at the bottom of the DPS are totally going to think that's fair. And it totally is fair. And you don't even have to worry about anything else. Obviously, loot's only about raid performance, right? And that's wrong. I don't want to get into it. But that is wrong, and it's not unreasonable that low performers expect even really, really good pieces of loot. It doesn't make them fucking crazy. But these are all things that you'll be told by people. And you'll be told it by, you'll have people tell you what they want from you when you're running a guild or a raid group. They'll say it very specifically what they want, and you can do exactly what they say, and they still won't be happy. And some of that is because when you take your ideas, and this is also a thing like when I make videos, when you take your ideas out of your head, out of the ether, and you fucking instantiate them in the real world and language and fucking images and stuff and trying to communicate, you fuck it up. It gets so bastardized. It's no longer this pure, beautiful thing. And so you'll have somebody might say this: I want to get Thunder Fury. Somebody might say like that. I want to get Thunder Fury. That's what I really want to get this expansion. And what they actually want is the feeling of accomplishment of receiving a Thunder Fury in a group of their peers where they think other people are also worthy choices, and it gives them some feeling of status. This is a big thing with legendary items, or just items that are really good, because the statistics on them don't matter. But people will feel really weird telling you that as a guild leader or a raid leader. They'll feel weird saying that, like, I don't know if you value me if you can't prove it with some of your actions. It's not really about the item. And so maybe what you're thinking is you have this friend who really wants to get Thunder Fury. So you're like, I'm going to make an alt raid, and you're going to tank it. And this raid's going to say it's going to be bad. It's not going to be a very good raid, but you'll get Thunder Fury. And they won't be happy. And you'll be like, why aren't they happy? And maybe it's because in that raid group, they're so obviously the only person that should reasonably receive the item that it doesn't feel that good to get it. Like, they're still happy to get the item, but it's not like an actual validation of their contribution to the guild at that point, especially if you did something like this. Oh, you want to get Thunder Fury? Tell you what, I can get you 10 or 15 guildies every week to go to your run, and you can make a pug. And you'll be able to get that Thunder Fury. And if you give people that offer, you will see how often they think it fucking sucks. And it's because it's really not getting them what they're after. This is going to happen with you over and over and over again when you're managing people. They don't know how to tell you what you need to hear to make them happy. You don't know how to make them happy, even if they said it, probably, because it would lack context. And it can make you feel like alone, or like these tiny decisions other people make just on how they want to spend their free time. It'll feel like a massive betrayal to you. You'll have a dude play with you. Like, maybe it's 2 guys join your guild. They're friends. You think it's not really a clique. It's 2 guys. They join, and you feel like you have a strong friendship with one of them. And one of the guys just wants to quit your guild or quit the game eventually, and the other guy is no longer into it. From your end, it's like, wow, really? Like, we weren't like that much of friends. Like, this other dude quit. Like, we hang out like fucking 6-7 hours a week. Now you're like tired of the game. Like, no notice, just like that. But really, I mean, what's probably going on is that other dude, they fucking hang out with them every second they fucking get back from work, and they've known them for years, and it's not the fucking same. But you don't have insight into all this shit. And if you're trying to think about your relationships with everybody in your guild the same way you think about your personal clique you've bounced around with for years in other guilds, it's just not the same. It's really, really different. And if you want to actually have it be the same, where you have 40, 50, 60 guys that are like in your fucking clique, it's going to take you years. Like, literally years. For me to get Wrath of the Lich King, when that came out, that's the first time I had a guild where I had like 15 people in the guild-ish, 15, 20. They were like my friends. Like, I had played with them for years at that point. They were like my friends, and I could just treat them all like my friends. And for example, when we would fucking do loot, we could actually be like, and there's a lot of loot to do in Wrath, and we could just assign it instant fucking taneously, and it was so easy. Even the very first weeks, it was very easy. And that took, I don't know, I probably ran 500 raids, like raid-led 500 raid IDs to meet that many people, just that many, like 15, 20 guys that are like, they're truly your boys, So that's what you're in for when you want to try to run a guild. If you're thinking, I want it to get easy, like, okay, maybe it will be really easy and you won't have to make brutal decisions and feel weird about things if you do it for like 3-4 years. Or if you make a YouTube channel and you put a lot of yourself online and people feel like they know you before they join the guild, and so they're like really sold on something. Or maybe if you become really good friends with a couple other guys who raid lead pugs, and they have like 5 or 6 friends, and you really trust these dudes, and you make a guild together and you actually pull off a successful merger. But unless you do something crazy like that, it's gonna be a rocky fucking time. Super rocky for a very long time. With my last guild in Wrath, and that's, I made that guild the normal way. I canceled it after one raid in Ulduar. I just wasn't really as into the game anymore. We'd gotten a lot less serious. We'd gone from being very good to being like super duper good to being like real good. And that wasn't enough to keep my interest, and I could tell it wasn't really keeping the interest of a lot of other people, but they were my friends and they wanted to stick around. And even though they got offers from actually like really good guilds the names of, they would pick to stay with us. But I knew they were making a sacrifice, and I felt like I was making a sacrifice too, and so I closed that group down. But it did have all the negative shit not really exist for a brief period of time. That last guild, after years and years and years and years and years of bullshit. Or the current guild I have now, since people join after they hear me fucking rant on YouTube for God knows how long, they feel pretty familiar with me, and then I can get them on a call, and I can talk to them for fucking hours, and they're into it, and we talk about their lives and what they think about the game and the world, and so I can actually know them super good, and I can just go take my free time, and I know I can go talk to 3 people who are interested in joining the guild, and one of them will actually get to 60, and I'm going to know them probably for years and years and years and years, which is not a thing that's offered to any of you guys watching this who are thinking about making a guild. You don't have that luxury, which, by the way, if you do want to make a guild, you should make a fucking YouTube channel, and you should talk about things you believe in, because you don't need very many views. I mean, I don't get any fucking goddamn views, and it can make you just be able to recruit people who you actually really, really like spending your time with, and they really like spending time with you, and it makes everything so easy and positive. In my current group, I don't have, no one's done anything where it made me felt like they betrayed my trust, which is a big thing if you run guilds. You'll have people, you give them a big item and they'll leave. Like I know a couple guys that run guilds, and they had somebody in their guild get like an onslaught girdle and then fucking go to like Brick's 4th run, which is like, dude, if somebody in my guild fucking did that, I'd feel so fucking bad. But I mean, that's just shit that's gonna happen when you're running a guild. Like, fucking, you want to start, like, that's in store for you, dude. It's a thing that'll occur. You got a lot of lessons to learn. But yeah, this video kind of went all over the place. If you're currently running a guild and it feels like shit, make some friends who are GMs. They feel like shit too. I feel fucking great. You can also be my friend. Hit me up. I love talking shit about this, because I got to live in hell for years making the very first guilds I made. Have a good one, guys. Oh, also, if you're looking for a raid team, 9 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, Night Slayer NA PvP. Hit me up. Might also have some spaces at 2 p.m. Eastern Saturday. Not sure. But yeah. Molten Core real fast. I guess check our logs or whatever. I don't know. Fucking don't join because of the logs. Join because you like want to be our bros. You gotta fucking hang out if you want to raid with me. People aren't allowed to raid log. But yeah, catch you later.